Welcome to They Mostly Pottered at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 111 of our
Oh, man.
weekly All Things Horror podcast.
We're a sixth of the way there.
Last week, we learned that sometimes the original recipe is the best. This week, we're trying the extra crispy recipe. These three films may not be better than the original, but they were able to remix the original elements into something just as fun. So we have three movies. It is the remake of Last House on the Left, the remake of The Crazies, and the remake of Suspiria. Two of these, I believe, we've already done the originals. One we have not. I think it's on our list somewhere in the future here.
Yes, we haven't done the OG Crazies yet.
Right. It's probably okay because it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll since these are again remakes of the same films, we're basically just going to go over the differences between this remake and the original. We're not going to go over the entire story again because we already know the gist of it, right?
Yeah.
So Last House on the Left, it doesn't make huge changes. It's more like tonal shifts and more like making things make more sense, putting them in, I think, a better presentation order and pacing them a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Is essentially, I think, what it primarily does. I mean, there are some changes, obviously. Like, the intro to the characters is different. We get like they're actually like on the run. I think they were kind of like on the run before, but they weren't like murdered police on the run.
Right, to get Grug out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they weren't at that level, but this one they're more like can't be seen by cops. They're on the run, like murdered cops to get out of there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the intro to them is a lot different and longer, and it kind of introduces you to the characters first. Like in the original, Mary was just a girl, right? We didn't really know anything about her. Like her and her friend were just like two girls going to a concert, and that was it.
In New York City.
That was the entire character development we got for those two characters. Is they're two girls that want to go see a concert. That's it.
And it was Mary's birthday.
And it was the Mary's, and that was it. That was literally the only backstory we got. It was just like, hey, we're a family. I want to go see a concert. Okay, bye.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, we get her backstory of like, she's I don't know if she's a champion swimmer, but she likes to swim a lot and is obsessed with her time. So I'm guessing she's some kind of like, competition swimmer or something. We get the whole like, she has got an older dead brother. Again, just to like, flesh out, why the family is doing things, why they haven't been there in a little while. It's just kind of backstory as to like what's going on. The original, they actually lived in the house, and this one, it's like their lake house.
Well, how many homes you got?
Yeah, right. So that's a bit different. Like I said, the intro is different because they meet the kid. The kid in the original, the kid kind of lures them in
with heroin.
Right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, but that's like that's it, and then bad things just happen to them. In this one, it's like she meets up with her old friend Paige, and she hasn't seen it in a long time. Paige is like, oh, we should party and get some weed, and then the kid kind of overhears, like, hey, I got some weed. Come back to the hotel, and we'll smoke some weed, and you can buy some. You can test it out first, and then buy some.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get that whole intro where they talk a lot and they get intro, those characters, and then the bad people show up after that, like in the middle of that, and you can tell that the kid is like abused. In the original one, yeah, he was like, obviously not the one that really wanted to be there, right?
Well, he was also, his dad got him addicted to heroin to make him stick around,
right? But he was like kind of more willing to do it. I mean, obviously he didn't want to, but he knew he was going to get heroin if he did this bad shit. Yeah. So he was a willing participant. In this one, he's not.
No,
at all. He's just like an abused kid that you can tell is terrified and just abused, and he just basically does whatever they want. But when they ask him to like join in, he absolutely will not. So it's a lot different of a presentation.
Well, his name's also not Junior.
Well, Justin, it's close enough.
I know.
So that happens. Other than that, I guess the major change here is that Mary does not die.
Yeah.
Paige dies. Mary does not die. Mary manages to use her swimming skills to manage to swim back to the lake house. So basically, everything happens about the same. Horrible things happen to Mary and Paige. They think that they're both dead. That they go to a house to hide out, and it turns out to be Mary's house. So where in the original, the mom spots the necklace and then overhears them talking when they go to sleep, and that's how she finds out what happened. In this one, Justin sees the daughter's picture on the fridge, and then leaves the necklace by his coffee cup or his hot cocoa cup.
Yeah.
To kind of like let her know, right? So then the mom obviously she finds that, she's like, oh shit, these people did something to my daughter, and then the daughter comes in right after.
Yeah, and I guess the other difference is instead of being able to overhear them, because they're not staying in their house, they're staying in the guest house.
Right. So I mean, that's the major change. Mary's still alive, but they do the same thing. They basically plan to kill the other family. I mean, it plays out mostly the same. I mean, obviously, some of these scenes are done better. The seduction scene is way better in this movie than the original. The fight scenes are a lot less goofy. The first one they were just wacky all over the place. It was like slapstick almost.
Right, we're gonna spray some shaving cream on the floor and some string.
Right. It was. Yeah. This one is a lot more of like your standard kind of thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Suspense and fighting and hit and run kind of guerrilla tactic stuff, and that kind of happens, and then the ending is different because Mary survives ultimately, and then Krug I guess kind of sort of survives until the end, to where the dad is a doctor. I guess that's different too.
Yeah.
As he's a doctor, and because he didn't want to risk tying him up because he was still alive when they were bringing Mary to the hospital, he literally like cut his spinal cord to paralyze him from the neck down.
Yeah.
So that he couldn't move. And then at the end, he puts his head in a microwave.
Oh, and Justin survives. He's not killed by his dad.
Well, yeah, correct. Well, he does. He gets stabbed.
He gets stabbed, but he does
die. But he does not die. Right. So that's basically the differences. I mean, more or less, it's the same basic story. I mean, there's some changes. Like I said, Mary is living would be the biggest change.
Yeah,
Justin like surviving and kind of replacing the dead brother, right?
Yeah. And no awkward dinner scene either.
Right. Yeah. So it's more of a tonal shift. I obviously the first one did it on purpose. It was trying to be insane, right? Mm-hmm. It was trying to be crazy. It had all these weird upbeat songs and like weird crazy shit happening because it was supposed to like portray insanity on the screen.
Yeah.
And it did. It did a good job. I mean, obviously we're talking years earlier, right?
35-ish years earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, the original hit a lot harder than this film does because even though it portrays the same horrific events, it's still something that people are, I don't want to say used to, but you know what I mean? It's things that people have seen before. So where like when the original came out, it was not something that people were used to at that time.
No.
Right. So it's a in my opinion here is I think it's a very good modern telling of the story in just a different tone. It's instead of like the kind of, trying to portray insanity on screen, it's just like your standard kind of like well-paced thriller, right? Like suspenseful thriller.
Right. Yeah. Completely agree.
But it's done well. Like I said, they pay respect to the characters. Like I said, they just everything that they do, I think, kind of adds more background to it. I think it's good. It's like I said, I don't think it's necessarily better than the original. I think it's a great companion piece. I think it's a great way to modernize it, for like a modern audience, but still not outshine the original for what it was. I mean, obviously, if you show modern kids both movies now, they'll probably like the 2009 one better.
Right. I view this almost as kind of like Texas Chainsaw 2003 versus the original Texas Chainsaw. That it's the same story, but tonally and visually a little bit different.
Right. But because it's done modern, again, they don't. Some people don't understand what the original meant at the time it came out. Like you watch both of them now, and it's like, okay, yeah, the newer one's better. But that's you're not taking into account like when this first one came out, this shit was not out. Like this is like breaking new ground on what it was doing.
Oh yeah, no one ever saw a movie like that before.
Right, but again, watching it now, a lot of movies have imitated that throughout the years to where like they're numb to that. They don't understand it.
Right.
To them, it's like all the cliches and stuff like, oh yeah, here it comes, right? Yeah, but that's the movie that started it.
Yes.
That's the first time. And I mean, I think it's lost on people that don't know the history of it. But again, I think it's a good companion piece, the original. I think they're better at portraying it in different ways. But if you don't know the history, you probably would like the 2009 one better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the first one is, as we discussed when we reviewed it, very hard to watch. This one's also hard to watch in that particular scene. But totally, yeah, this is, is it better than original? No, it's still, though, a fantastic movie in its own right. And if you didn't know any better, you'd think this is a great movie. Now, for us, maybe we see this as a little more generic version of it. I can see that, right? It's, because quite honestly, I forgot who the woman was. I had completely forgot that Aaron Paul was in this movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, when this movie came out, Breaking Bad was like just getting like popular.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when this came out, Aaron Paul was not the Aaron Paul that of today.
Yeah. But I think the original still sticks out in my mind. While, like I said, this one I've watched a few times. It's just less impactful, I think. But yeah, it's still a good companion piece. Do you want to go into your highlights first of this one?
Sure. So, this one, I mean, I do like some of the background that they put in there. They give you kind of a reason why Mary may have survived because she is very good at swimming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's they just give you that kind of background. At least it gives her, something other than, girl. you know what I mean? Like daughter that gets attacked. Like that's basically their, what they were in the original. So it gives her something to like, the brother and the swimming, it gives you some kind of character development. But a lot of the cast does that. Like the mom and the dad, we get to see the dad at work and like how stressed he is, being a doctor and stuff. And, kind of how frustrated the mom is. You can tell that she's upset that he's not there all the time. Like, she had to go there and like pull him out of the hospital to like go on this vacation. And, I mean, again, it's just giving you background for the characters. Like Justin trying to like get along with, the girls before the, his family comes back. And then you see just that change in him when the family comes back of like, this kid is fucked up. Like bad things have happened to this fucking kid. And that's, again, it just adds a little bit more to it. It gives you reasons why actions happen later. Whereas the original, like I said, the original is just crazy. It's just all over the place. Some of it's not really explained, but that's okay because it's going for that craziness. Again, yeah, like I said, there's no comedy, there's no slapstick, there's no upbeat music. It's just kind of like that brutal tension, right? It just kind of starts like from when they walk into that hotel room, right? And that tone shifts. That tone stays for the whole rest of the movie. Like you're always like on edge, right? Like what is going to happen next? Like who's going to find out what's going to happen? So that once that shift changes in the motel room, it like lasts the whole rest of the.
Yeah.
I think that's done well. I mean, Mary does live, which again, overall, I would probably put that in the on the low side, but she is not okay.
No.
So she's not like fighting them at the end because like again like that redemption story of like, oh yeah, I may have gotten stabbed 12 times, but I'm still gonna hit you with a bat or something. No, she does not. She is down. She's alive, but she's not doing anything. So like again, it doesn't take away from the story because she's not taking part in the attacks. It's still the parents doing it. But she does live. And I will say the blood and kind of gore, there's not a ton of it in this movie, but what is there is done very well.
Yeah, for sure.
Tastefully. But that's I get for high points.
Yeah, so for me, it is hard to watch at points like the original. So kudos for still keeping some of that tone still there. I don't think they could have outright made a shot for shot sequel like they did for Psycho, because I think even remaking it 35 years later, it wouldn't get past the censors like it did in 1972. But it does its own thing in parts, like you said, expanding on every character, realistically. I think for the better too, right? As you said, with the doctor being pulled away, this being their lake house, just overall character development makes you more invested in the characters. I will put it as a high point that Mary doesn't die, just because I think when they added in the other dead kid, they couldn't do it. As soon as they did that, like, oh shit, they're not gonna let her die. And that's, I remember, I think I saw this in theaters and just going, wow, Mary doesn't die. That's weird. But in this story, I think it works well. So I mean, it in theory, Paige is still alive. We don't know.
No, she's dead.
Yeah. But like I said, and it makes it a good modern version of it without, I'd say without unnecessary callbacks, without going, look, here's what the original did, here's how we're doing it, haha, type thing. That's why I said
it's really just a modern remake with the original script. That's mainly what it is. Yeah,
right. So it's not that cheesy callbacks that a lot of these things seem to do. So, like I said, that's why it stands on its own as a movie. You can enjoy it on its own. So, and I agree. The blood was definitely done a lot better. It felt it felt grimier and more realistic than, like I said, is the slapstick of the shaving cream on the ground. Now, granted, the dad was like 70 in the original one, so he wasn't going to be doing all those physical things. But that's what I got. I'll roll into my low points. I found it weird they went from heroin to marijuana.
Well, it was just the drug. He's not addicted to it.
Right.
The original, basically, they're just trying to give you an excuse as to why he's a willing participant.
Yeah.
In 1972, portraying a child as abused is not as easy to do as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's much easier for them to be drug addicts than it is for them to just be abused kids. And nowadays, I think people are more emotionally intelligent to understand that abused children can go along with horrible shit because they're afraid of what happens if they don't.
That's true. It's I miss seeing the CD grody New York Times Square of the 70s. New York, city, and Time Central, or was very different now in 2009 than it was in the 70s. So it lost that seedy underbelly that they had, and I felt like that kind of made the crew a little bit more generic. I said as before, kind of forgetful. While I think Frankie, Grog, and Junior were very memorable in the original one. I said these were quite forgetful crew, I think, overall. I was looking at the hot chocolate. Now, I don't like hot chocolate. I don't like chocolate, but that was some of the palest hot chocolate I've ever seen. It looked like it was like tan.
Yeah, well, you're used to seeing hot chocolate made with water. That's why you're not used to seeing hot chocolate made with milk.
It's probably very true. It's like
there's two different colors. If you mix if like the Swiss mix, and you mix that with water, it looks a lot browner. It looks more close to coffee.
Yes,
not like again cream coffee, not black coffee. But like if you make it with milk, imagine that another couple of shades paler, and that's where you're at.
Oh, I mean, still, I wouldn't drink it. So, still do look
no shit. You don't like chocolate at all. Doesn't matter what color it is.
So yeah, that's just so it just seemed off to me then because I don't know my hot chocolate then. I said it's interesting that they made Junior or Justin alive at the end. That it kind of shows that he was just that unwilling kid to do it. But I don't know. I don't know if it'd been more impactful if they killed his son too out of rage. I was debating that when I was watching it.
Yeah, but again, though the story they were trying to tell, I don't think that wouldn't have come across at the right vibe they were trying to sell. You know what I mean? They were trying to be like they're getting revenge on these people for what they did to their daughter, and that kid is one of the reasons why they know what happened. And I think that they probably didn't know what to do with the kid until they walked into the room and he handed them the gun.
Yeah,
I think at that point they understood that he was with them. Like the dad gives him a nod, like, "Okay, like you're one of us. You're not one of them."
Yeah, we'll take care of this.
Right. But I think up until that point, they were probably very unsure what they were going to do with that kid. But at that point, I think they breathed a sigh of relief that okay, we don't have to kill the fucking kid because he's going to help us.
But I think the first time I saw it, I was almost for certain like they're going to accidentally kill him. The parents will.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was going to be the dad would kill him because he was against him.
Yeah. So that's all I got. What about you?
I mean, low points. I mean, rape is hard to watch.
Yep.
It's like that in the original. It's like that in this one too. It's just it feels like it goes on forever.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to watch. Again, this is made in 2009, and they were still talking about landlines and yellow pages, which strikes me as strange because even I had a cell phone at that point, and that's I held out for a very long time. But yeah, 2009 landline yellow pages. It's stretching.
Hell, I think my parents had a cell phone at that point.
Right. I mean, it's like 2009. Everybody had one. Like that's when like almost all the landlines were going away. But
yeah.
Whatever. Again, there was no comedy. Again, it took away that little bit of insanity that was there. It made it just a straight up, thriller. So where like the insanity of the original was kind of wiped away. Overall, I would say it's a bad thing. Mary doesn't die again. I think that's overall a bad thing, but again, she's suffering. It's not like she's fine. But I think that was a major point of the original one. That's why they're killing these people, is because they killed their daughter. And now the daughter is alive. Yeah, bad things happen to her. I understand that, but it's, you know what I mean? It seems like an escalation.
Yeah.
And again, the microwave. I don't think you can make a microwave.
I mean, unless you jam the door button in so it would work with it, because it's not supposed to work with the door open.
Right, but I'm just saying I don't think it would work like that. But I don't know. I'm not a microwave technician, so I can't tell you that it's for sure going to happen that way. But I don't think that's a thing that can happen. That's
You don't
just
think your head will explode from the nose clearly out?
yeah. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure bad things are gonna happen, and I'm sure it's not good, but I just don't think it would be like ding, explode.
Yeah, I agree.
No, that's just what I think. Okay, so last house on the left, 2009. You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
Why don't you go? I don't remember what I gave the first one. I was about to look that up.
Last house on the left. I believe I gave it a 6. I believe you gave it a 7. The original.
Let's see here. Yes, you're correct.
I know. So you just listen to me. I don't know why you got to look it up. I do like this movie. Again, I don't. I mean, it is a movie that I have rewatched, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I necessarily think it's better than the original, but I think. Well, we'll say it's the same but different. So we'll say 6. And we'll do disturbing nudes out of 10 this week because there's disturbing nudity in at least 2 of these movies.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll keep it even. It's 6. It's good. It's just different. they're good for different reasons.
Yeah. The original one, like I said, gave it a 7, and it's disturbing and it sticks with you. And I think that's what makes it a good movie. Like I said, this one was kind of generic. I remember like the couple of plot point changes, but like I said, everyone else, I couldn't tell you who anyone was in the cast at that point in time. I think it's slightly less compared to the original, so I will go down to a 6.75. Disturbing nudes out of 10.
The guy who played Krug is in a lot of stuff.
I know that now, but I don't. Like I said, I couldn't picture his face if you asked me to.
I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, I couldn't tell you right now. The one thing that I remember him in, that I remember seeing his face afterwards, was Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Did you ever watch that show?
No.
He was, for a while, he was one of the main bad Terminators.
Oh.
So he was like the bad guy coming back to like hunt down Sarah and John. Like I said, they changed around a couple times because he whatever. I'm not gonna get into that show, but I'm saying like that actor played the bad Terminator for a while.
Yeah.
And he did a good job at it. And that's when I started noticing him in things after that. I'm sure he's been in stuff before then that I saw and I just didn't notice him, but I always notice him after that. But he's always in stuff.
Oh yeah, he's definitely been in lots and lots of stuff, but
yeah. I can never remember his name. He's got like a goofy, longish name that I can never remember. So I just know his face.
Garrett Dillahunt.
Yeah, so it's like I just call him the Terminator guy.
Oh, he was the douche security guy in Army of the Dead that carried the zombie's head around.
Okay.
That's what I remember from now. So, all right.
So now we move forward 1 year to the remake of The Crazies. Have you watched the original The Crazies?
Not in a very long time, so I'm gonna have to I know what I think the biggest differences are. I mean, obviously setting, it's not in Iowa.
It does. I don't think it says where it is.
They're going to Louisville at the end of it. I know that too. So
yeah, but I mean that could...
so essentially, we have the basic plot is Trixie biological weapon gets into a rural town of like 1,200 people. They start getting affected by people closest to the infected bog, I guess.
It's the waters.
Yeah, but like I said, where the plane crashes, like almost a bog or a swamp in Iowa. And so people get to that, big opening scene is obviously the guy come out into the high school baseball game with a shotgun and gets killed. Kind of almost zombie-esque in a way. And, we have Sheriff Cooper, who is in the original, but not being played by Timothy Oliphant. He takes the place of David this time. So they kind of mix two characters together.
Well, yeah, they basically what they did is the original. It was like the two volunteer firefighters,
Yeah.
Unibrow and I don't know, like Dumby, like dumb, like Italian enforcer. I don't know how to like describe that guy. He's just like a dumb tough guy. And they're like the two main characters. The one guy has the pregnant wife, so that part stays the same. Instead of that, they changed it to Timothy Oliphant and his deputy. So instead of volunteer firefighters, it's the sheriff and his deputy, and then his wife,
Judy, who's upgraded from nurse to town doctor,
right? Because it's the modern day. But I think the major change, and I think it's for the better, is the original tried telling the story from all sides. The original was telling you like the doctor's office became like the mission central for the military.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to see what was happening on the side of the military. They were trying to get people in. They were trying to like contain it. They're trying to help people. They're like, we saw all the orders go out in the order that they went out in, and that they, didn't want to necessarily do this shit, but they needed to because this thing can't get out, right?
Yeah.
And what we did that. It was like the major guy, and then the colonel guy, and then they were talking on the radio to the higher ups, and then we even got like government officials in like a White House cabinet room, like discussing what they were going to do and stuff like that. We got to see it from all that side. We got to see it from like the military on the ground side. We got to see it from the volunteer firefighter side. There's so many points of view in the movie. It tries to tell the story from all of those points of view.
So almost like The Stand in that aspect. While this movie focuses on essentially Judy and the sheriff,
right?
And their path, but
right. It essentially cuts out completely the military point of view.
Right.
So all of the same things happen. The military starts doing all the same things in the same order that they do in the original movie. It's just we don't see the military side of that. We only see the effects of it on the people that we're following.
Other than the mysterious surveillance that's happening, like almost like Umbrella Corporation for Resident Evil.
Yes. Right. So like, yeah, there's like this omnipresent like thing happening. Like there's the guy taking pictures of him in the black Suburban, like stuff like that. The government is there. The government is watching. Military is there. The military is like taking over things, like moving them to the high school, starting to burn the bodies, starting to clear people out, starting to confiscate all civilian weapons. These are all things that we saw the military side of this, like why they did these things and why they needed to start taking these steps. Right. But now we're just seeing it from the civilian side, where they're like, we don't know what's happening. What the fuck's going on? Why are all these things going down? We don't see that. And I think it makes the movie better. Overall.
Yeah, it's more of a, like I said, if the Resident Evil theme song started playing at the end of this movie, I would feel right at home with it because it felt perfectly to it. Right. And I would say the only time that we didn't see it from, I'd say Judy or the sheriff's point of view, is the homages that were in the original with the guy burning his house down with his family inside of it. That's what happened in the original of it as well. So I think that and kind of like the good old boys on their boat, I'd say are the only times it's really not following those two from their story arc.
Right. I mean, with the whole part of them, going to the truck stop and all that is added to this, but also the whole like concrete factory scene, the whole like them holding up in the country club scene, like all that stuff is cut out, and it just goes straight into them trying to get away.
Right. The car wash scene where it's a deadly car wash.
Right. Yeah. Again, that's like the car wash is in the place of the country club, and then the truck stop is in the place of the concrete plant.
Right. And so it's the four main people that we get to are changed up. Other Judy and the sheriff are the same. Now they didn't kill Rory because he tried to have sex with the woman that was with them. She just got straight up noosed out of the car in the car wash.
Right. Well, the original one is more fucked up because that's her dad.
Yeah.
Her dad is like they're trying to like get it on. Well, the big a lot of the changes that are happening. Like I said, there's good and bad here, right?
Yeah.
The new one does it as kind of like a pure like you start thinking a little bit off and then you go full zombie, right? That's like there's like no kind of in between. The only person that we see a steady transition of that happening is with the deputy guy.
And he held it together longer than anyone else ever.
Right.
Did.
He held it together for like a few hours. Now, in the original one, it takes days. It takes days, and you start getting confused and you start thinking weird shit, but you are fully aware of what's happening to you. And it doesn't get to the point where you're like out of your mind until days later. So like you can still live your life and try to do what you're trying to do for days before it finally takes you over and you start getting crazy. Whereas like in the remake, it's like you had within 48 hours you're dead. So like you don't start showing symptoms for like 12, then you start getting wacky for like, you know, whatever, 4 hours, and then you're just a zombie, like a crazy murder zombie after that.
Well, I mean, they had said that even with Rory still with them, they're like, it's been 3 days, we're all fine. So he, like I said, he lasted, I'd say, the original time frame length.
Right. But it's like the time frame is much shortened in the remake, and that's done for time, right? Because they're trying to get out of the town. If you say, "Oh, it could happen over a week," you know, you don't know who's sick by that point. So they wanted to give you like a short time frame to where, like, you know, quote unquote, you know, these people aren't sick, right?
Yeah.
And the original, also, the wife does get sick
and dies.
Yeah. So that there's no like happy ending where they get away. It's, you know, they're like everybody dies.
Oh, and they're actually trying to work on a cure of it in the original as well.
Well, the original, they do have one, and the guy dies because they won't believe him.
Yeah. And I don't think there's a nuclear explosion at the end of the original.
Well, it's kind of left in the air.
I mean, maybe I don't remember. Did they have the order to nuke it? We just never saw it.
It basically ends with, like, you know, it got out.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it ended. So they may have nuked the original site. Who knows? But at that point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's out.
Right.
And, you know, this one, it's potentially out as well, setting up a sequel that we never got. So.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, beat for beat, I think it's close. I said I haven't watched the original in a very long time. Obviously, we're going to rewatch it and give a full recap of it. Now, do you think it was better than the original, or do you think it was its own thing as well?
Both. I think it's its own thing because, again, it completely removes, like, I mean, pretty much half the movie. You know what I mean? There's like all that military shit, all the scientist stuff. That's like half of the film. It cuts all of that out and then concentrates on the civilian people to make a story, just a, you know, direct line story with them.
Right.
So it doesn't cut back and forth to all these different characters. The original is kind of confusing with that. It goes all over the place. It doesn't really tell you what's going on. I think that's part of like the good thing about it is you don't know who's crazy. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
Because essentially, like, these people, it's like the military takes over their town, right? And again, like, if the military takes over your town, they're not letting you go anywhere. They're trying to confiscate your guns. They won't give you any information. They're killing and burning your neighbors and not telling you what's going on. A lot of people are just going to start fighting the soldiers.
Oh, easily.
Right?
And they do. Yeah.
And they do. But at the end of it, you don't know if they're fighting because they're trying to save their town or if they're just crazy. Because both reasons are accurate as to why they're attacking. So that's why they just start shooting everybody. And
Yeah.
that's the interesting part of it is that the original one you don't know because you don't have like crazy zombie veins in your face. You don't look any different. You just act crazy. But
Right.
like, are you just fighting for your town? Or do you have like severe PTSD and you're fucked up, but are not sick, or are you actually sick? You don't know. That was the interesting part about the first one is you don't know. Like some of the characters that we followed, you could tell that yes, they're like mentally degrading and they are sick. But like some of the people that were just fighting the soldiers and shit, we don't know. We have no idea if they were sick or not. They were just people getting shot. Who knows?
Right.
May or may not. I think that was the interesting part of the first one. Whereas this one, who's sick because they're like obviously like repeating the same lines over and over, like staring off into space.
They're
Like
zombified.
yeah, there's something wrong with them when they still look normal, and then as soon as they go crazy, they got zombie veins and they start looking like they're dead and shit. So like it's very easy to tell who's sick. Whereas in the original, they look completely normal,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that makes it a little bit more of a what's going on, who's killing who, why, what's happening. Even though you see the story from all sides, you still don't know what's going on. I think that's the confusing part. It's like they're trying to show you that nobody knows what's going on. It's like that's great, but like somebody needs to know what's going on, or else you don't know what the fucking story is.
Right.
Um, but no, overall, I would say I do like probably the remake better simply because it's a more coherent story.
Yeah. I mean, I love this movie. Like I probably have watched this 20, 30 times easily. Probably once a year, if not more. So I think it's in my head, and I'll have to come back when we go back to the original crazes. Is yeah, this is better. It's it's just a better setup to everything. It's better like CDC related. It's better like government surveillance and all that stuff of them potentially doing what they would do to cover up Trixie, right?
Yeah, but I think it's also interesting in the post-COVID too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Seeing how like the pandemic protocol is the same. It's just it's interesting.
yeah. All right, so you want me to do my highlights first?
Sure.
Okay. I like that. Like I said, the government surveillance. I think that even in 2010, the Big Brother is there, and they would be on top of it like this. But like I said, it gives it a more ominous feel to it. Like maybe we shouldn't trust the government. They made this Trixie, and they're saying, "Oh, we're just destroying it, and we just happen to lose a plane. Oopsie."
It's funny when I watched the Crazies. I watched it on Shutter. For some reason, Shutter always puts the movies like under their original names, even though like when you search it, like it says the Crazies, but when you play the movie, it says Codename Trixie, because that was the original name of the movie. So the movie said Codename Trixie. I'm like, is this the right movie? But yeah, it was just the original title that they changed.
Yeah. Like I said, I like that. I like that it is the small town feels of USA, even though they had varying accents in this Iowa this town.
People move from all over, man.
I know. Arguably bad ending.
Yeah, it's one of those like good and then bad. Like good, but like they don't know it's bad.
Yeah. I like that. Like I said, I also like the we know it's military, we know it's the government, but it still feels like an unknown agency to it because we only see it from their point of view. So we don't know what the fuck's going on in the military's mind. We don't know how the soldiers are feeling about this. They just have the orders. Yeah, he unmasked the guy. He's like, yeah, we have to do this. We were told we're wearing this mask because we were told it's airborne. Like, what? It's airborne? Like, that would be news to them. They've never seen any case of that in their 2-day experience.
Right. And I think the really interesting thing is that the guy, the black Suburban that was like taking pictures that they had seen multiple times, like they finally like they spike stripped them and got them out of the car, and he was like telling them, he's like, I came here to help.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you mean? And then the deputy shoots him. We don't get any more information, so we don't know what the fuck he was talking about. What do you mean came to help?
Yeah,
Like, why would another government agency come to help? What the fuck does that mean?
right. That's why it's an unknown agency.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, there's interesting things that could have been looked into a sequel. It's a shame they didn't get one.
Oh yeah. The Pitchfork Massacre. That's a poster. It's iconic. Of
Yeah,
the
the only problem
principal.
with that is the pitchfork tongs, like have the ability to lengthen when he stabs people with them.
Yes, as they do.
Because like the tongs are like 2 feet long as a normal pitchfork is, and as soon as he sticks it in them, there's another 2 feet coming out of the bottom of the bed. It's like, okay, how fucking long are these things?
That's true. I thought it was interesting that the cameo of Lynn Mowry from the original, right, Kathy, is just a crazy woman on a bike that we don't get to see her in focus.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing a cameo, I guess. I mean, as opposed to building out an entire Sawyer family at the beginning of a movie to do a shootout.
Well, yeah. But I mean, the craziest is also like nobody in that movie went anywhere. Like nobody famous is in that movie.
Hey! She cost $5,000 a day to get her into a movie. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like I said, I like Timmy Oliphant. I think he was phenomenal in this. I loved Rory, even to the end. Because like I said, he felt like he stuck it out the longest, and like he wanted to go crazy but couldn't until told it's all right. So, I do appreciate him for that. Those are my highlights. How about you?
Okay. I will say I think this one hit that small town vibe a lot better than the original did. It really gave you the introduction to like this is the small town life,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's slowly like falling apart. Whereas the original was just like, it didn't really give you introduction to anything. It just like slapped you, and then like the military was like the first thing that showed up. So like you don't really get to see the small town at all. You're seeing it through like the military's eyes, and then like a house burning down, but you don't get to see like the town and these people interact before bad shit happens. So I thought they did better with that. Timothy Oliphant was great. I like him in just about everything he's done. I think I've liked him like ever since Deadwood. I think I didn't really notice him before then, but after then I always notice where he's when
I
he's in
love.
stuff.
I
He
loved
always
him in.
plays a fucking sheriff.
I loved him in Scream too.
Yeah, he always plays a fucking sheriff or a cop. Always.
Yeah, justified.
Yeah, and then his wife, I'm like, I know her from something. What do I know her from? It took me about half the movie to remember. She was the pilot in Pitch Black.
Yes.
I was like, I fucking know her from somewhere. Who is this lady? And it took me, that's what she is. Anyway, yeah, but I thought the newer one had better pacing, a better lead up, a better just kind of like structuring of the story. Again, the whole government watching from the satellite, kind of behind the scenes, they look like they're not really attached to the military. I mean, the military is a tool of them. Again, when they talk to the military, they're like, I don't know. They're like, they flew us here. They just told us what to do. He's like, we didn't even know what state we were in until we saw the license plates on the cars.
Mm-hmm.
Like they literally told us nothing. So like that's again, there's a lot more going on, and we don't get information of it. But it's fun. I like when they don't tell you everything.
Yeah, it's a
they
big
give you
mystery.
enough. Yeah, they give you enough, but they don't give you all of it. I'm not good with that. And again, I think it tells a much more coherent story. I think the removal of the military point of view really fixes the movie. I think it really puts it in a much better light, much better structure, way easier to watch.
Mm-hmm.
The original wacky, but but that's it. Going to my low points here. The pitchfork tongs are not that long. They're like, if they were as long as they were through that bed, they would be like 4 feet long. They would be like half as tall as the guy was, or actually more if they're whatever. But they were like way, way, way too long when he was stabbing people.
Well, they got the pitchfork tongs from the same place that has the 80-foot cord on the saw.
Right. I mean, yeah, like I said, the civil unrest part of it is like the original one. I think it did a much better job with like showing like crazy shit's going down. You don't know what's happening. Where in this one, it's like the only real civil unrest they showed is when like the good old boys like drove their pickup truck into this high school. Right? That was it. That was the only time you saw that, and then after that, things just went to shit, and it didn't matter what there's civil unrest. But
Right.
uh, still interesting to see that. Again, they don't have that slow change. In the original one, it was like, are they crazy? Is it trauma? Is it are they sick? It takes days to get there, so they don't know. Like again, when the one the partner guy, like I said, the Italian tough guy, he like starts killing people when he doesn't have to, but it's like, is he sick? There's like this question, like, is he? Is he not? I mean, like, we
Or is
don't
he
know.
or is he surviving?
Right. You're like, we don't know. And like but he's still reacting. He still understands that other people are sick. Like when he finds the dad and the daughter like making out, like he gets all upset and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? But he was already starting to act sick at that point, but he just didn't realize it. And again, I think they did a better job in the original one of showing you that you don't know who's crazy. You don't know what's going on. But like I said, in the remake, it was like they get zombified and you know who's good and who's bad.
Right.
Yeah, the daddy daughter makeout was just gross. The original one, I'm glad that that's not in this one. But overall, yeah, the car wash scene I think was just unnecessary. I don't know what the point of that whole scene was. Like I know they had to kill off the one girl, but I mean, there's like more simple ways to do that than like getting caught in a hose in a car wash.
Then a spooky car wash.
Yeah,
Like they're
it's like,
shouting, like, we're in the car wash.
yeah, like okay,
You haven't seen anyone in there. You're freaking out. You're in a car wash.
right? Like okay. But I think the ending was just a little too long. Like I think that the truck stop thing was a little too dragged out. Because like they had the whole trip getting there. They had the whole like getting around the roadblock, and then they hit the truck stop. Like the truck stop felt unnecessary. But yeah, I think that the ending was just a little bit too drawn out. I understand they had to pad some time, as I said, removing the military POV removes literally half the movie. So they got to add in all their stuff to like make it longer, and I feel like it was the car wash and the truck stop were the two things they added. That just felt unnecessary. I know the movie would probably be way too short without it.
Yeah.
Just felt unnecessary. That's all I got.
All right. I thought it was weird where Cooper is like, oh man, I gotta blend in and get out of here, and then like truck goes by and he's just a ninja. Like I don't think we ever learned he was a ninja, guy, just disappear and do stuff like that. It just seemed out of place in this movie. I think it's out of place anytime it's done, especially in horror movies when it's not by a supernatural entity, when it's just a person. That's just nitpicking. So okay, so you are able to get contaminated, infected by drinking water, right? And they said it's also airborne. And yet, Cooper has a knife through his hand, so he's bleeding, and then stabs an infected person in the neck, who's then bleeding into his open wound. There's no fucking way he's not infected.
Well, the original one, he was immune.
Well, they never said that.
I'm just saying they alluded to. They never told him he's immune. They alluded to the fact that if you're not sick yet, you're immune. Which is, I think, the point that they're trying to make with the guy saying either 48 hours, either you're dead or you don't have it or whatever. So since they both had survived at that point, I think they were intentionally just trying to say like you're not sick, so you're fine.
Maybe, but I mean, even if he wasn't immune, he's infected for sure.
Well, that's the point of being immune. You don't get infected.
I know.
Your body fights it off. It's like a cold.
Yeah. I think the truck stop scene of the used oil that's just there and you lit on fire is like, hey, we have a guy who will get lit on fire. How can we make this happen? Hence, truck stop scene.
Well, again, the whole truck stop just feels drawn out to me. I mean, it just feels like it's added into pad time.
Yeah.
I understand why, but I'm just saying it just feels like it's unnecessary. I felt like they could have made better changes elsewhere.
That's true. And then teasing us with a sequel bait that we never got. I really wanted to see what happens next in this franchise after this movie.
Well, do
And
they
now it's-
have remakes that have sequels that when the originals did not?
I spit in your grave.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So I guess you could almost argue that the beginning was a one that we never got that movie either of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So because the sequels never went back into the past. But that's really all I got. Like I said, I really, really enjoy this
The
movie.
Texas Chainsaw ones did.
I'm saying the before the reboot that we got in the early 2000s,
Oh, right.
they never went into the past. So we had a sequel to a reboot that we never had a prequel to the reboot that we never got the prequel to originally until I guess Leatherface came out. So that's all I got though.
All right. So the Crazies, 2010. I'll go first. Like I said, I do like it. I'll remember to mark the original lower in the future, but I will say it's a solid 7.5. 7.5 disturbing nudes out of 10.
Yeah. Like I said, I love this movie. I think it's there's a couple silly things here and there. Yeah, I'm going to rate the original one lower, but I'm going all the way to a 9. Disturbing news out of 10 for this. Like I said, I could just watch this all the time. So at this point when it came out, it was probably one of the first reboots that I thoroughly enjoyed more than the original.
Yeah, I remember. Well, when this movie came out, I watched it before I watched the original. So I watched this one and I liked it, and then I remember watching the original, going like, nah, I don't think I like this one as much. Like, so yeah, it was definitely ones that I watched. Where I felt like, because most of the time you watch the remake and then you go back and watch the original and you're like, this is much better.
Yeah,
like this makes more sense. But the one of the first times I went back, I'm like, yeah, this needed to be rebuilt. This needed to be changed because it's not as good.
correct. So that's why this is on this list as opposed to last week's episode.
Yeah,
with the unnecessary remakes.
Correct. Well, there's more. We could probably do a lot more if you want.
Oh, I'm sure.
We're spacing them out. I don't want to put them all together.
No.
I'll get angry. Okay, so we'll move on to Suspiria, which is, I like it. Probably, arguably, people can go either way because notoriously, when the critics started rating this movie, it was either like high praise or hated. There was like no in between with this movie. And there's a lot of interesting things here. Basically, it's like this is what this movie does. Suspiria 2018. It takes all the original elements of the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then adds in a whole bunch more shit, like fleshing out those elements, and then it like remixes them up. So there's a lot of shit in this one that wasn't in the original, but it basically getting the same point across until the end, and it twists the end and changes it because you think you know where everything is going, and then it does not do that, and it changes the ending. So
and then a big gaping wound opens up.
Yeah, literally. Like, so it totally changes the ending, but like everything to get to the ending is more or less the same. There's just a lot more happening. They kind of reduced all of the external characters into like this one old man.
Yeah.
Funny enough, played by Tilda Swinton.
Yep.
Tilda Swinton plays 3 characters. She plays the dance choreographer, the main kind of like
Madame Belle
Blanc. Yeah, so she's like the main witch that Susie interacts with, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's like there was the same role was in the original, but I think this role, Tilda Swinton, is like talks a lot more. This one focuses a lot more on the dance. It's like they showed the girls like practicing a couple of times in
Yeah.
the original one, but there was like dancing was like, yeah, it happened at a dance school, but dancing was not the point.
Less
This-
dominatrixy too.
Right. But like this one, there is like full on dance sequences, like a lot of them.
Even showing why you're going to dance school with a dance number.
Right. But it's like, it really focuses on the art of that dance and like of around that. So whereas the original was just telling you a story that happened at a dance school, this one's like focusing a lot on the dance. So like, I mean, yeah, there's witches, right? They doing the same thing. They bring the girls in. They kind of like test them to see how powerful they are. And then the most powerful ones, they kind of prep and train to like, be eaten, whatever energy stolen, become hosts for other witches, whatever. It's like they're kind of, new body school kind of thing. That's what all these witches are doing, is they're just like taking these women and stealing their energy or whatever, whatever witches do.
Definitely more witchy things.
Right. But that's essentially what this boils down to, which is essentially what the original boiled down to as well. She lives in the school. Obviously, they're figuring out something's going wrong. But this one, like I said, the main change is that at the end, when Susie, in the original one, it's like a, kind of a tragedy when Susie figures out what's going on, and then she just gets, it ends badly for her. So whereas in this one, she becomes the mother. Just like, right.
Yeah.
Well, because the original Suspiria, Argento may or may not have the mothers in mind at that time, right?
The three mothers, yeah.
Right. Again, it kind of alluded to, but in the original, I don't think he fully knew what he was doing with the mother stuff yet. This one does.
Oh, because they have the book with Mother and Abram and all that stuff.
Yeah. Right. But I'm just saying, I didn't think he knew what he was doing at that. But this is the first time that it happened. So that's why in the next book, Inferno, they had to like tell you the other one. The movie you watched, Suspiria, yeah, that was one for sure. Like they had to tell you an Inferno so that you knew.
Yeah.
Because like in this one, it doesn't quite get the point across in the original. This one, there's no doubt. This one is definitely that's what's going on. But you think that Mother Marcos is the mother, just like she was in the original one, but she's not. She's a powerful witch, but she's not the mother. The mother is Susie, who is like now like the kind of reincarnation of the actual mother, who then comes in and cleanses all of these witches who were following this fake mother, and then rebuilds her coven.
Only if they say Marcos, did their head explode, okay?
Well, yeah, they voted, because in the beginning they had a vote.
Yeah.
Like, who are you voting for to rule the coven? And it was either Marcos or Blanc.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, everybody that voted for Marcos was voting for the fake, the imposter. So when the mother actually came back, she killed all the imposters.
Yeah.
To reform a loyal coven, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff because it happens in, it's still the same time period in the same place, Berlin 77, right?
Yep.
But this one goes into a lot more of like the politics and the turmoil that was happening at that time. This is like peak Cold War.
Oh yeah, the Berlin
whole
Wall divided Germany, yeah, all that.
Yeah, the whole Bader Meinhof thing is literally told in like news snippets between a lot of different scenes.
Oh yeah, they're even literally just reading the newspaper out loud.
Right. Yeah, it's like that story is literally being told in the background, which is not in the original. Yeah, again, it's more or less the stuff happens. Her friend that was like trying to like figure out what was going on also, gets hurt and killed, just like in the original one. Blah,
we
blah,
have
blah.
we have one reference of the counting of the steps.
Yeah. Well, there was like an obsession in the first one. Like she kept talking about the fucking steps. So
Yep.
yeah, they don't go as heavy into that. She does count when she's walking, but I don't think they quite tell you why she's doing that at the time. But I mean, obviously, if you see the original, you know why. that's Mia Goth, I guess, who star of all the Ty West movies. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a whole extra hour, literally. It's the original movie is an hour and a half long, and this movie is 2.5 hours
long. I think is the extra hour was dance.
Well, I mean, it was just there's a lot more stuff going on. Like I said, the old man, you know, doing all the people that were doing exposition dumps outside of the school all get kind of concentrated into this guy. There's a whole story about him and his fucking wife and the Holocaust, and like him going across the border into East Berlin to go to his old cottage, and like there's all kinds of fucking story going on there. There's a lot more shit going on. There's a lot more stuff about the witches planning and discussing what's going on and what their plans are, which weren't in the original. That was all kind of glossed over, kind of a lot of assumptions.
And the contortion twist.
yeah, like like her doing dances actually causing things to happen in the school. Like people to get hurt, like magic rituals essentially happening. But again, a lot of it is Tilda Swinton and Dakota Johnson like dancing.
Yeah.
But having like conversations with each other. They're not talking about dancing. They're talking about the witchcraft and shit like that. And Dakota Johnson kind of slowly over the course of the film starts to understand. Yeah, she's not talking about dancing. She's talking about casting magic, and this is how they cast their magic is with dance and ritual and stuff.
But where's the giant slumber party with the old witch breathing heavily behind the curtain?
Yeah, that got changed into a weird, crazy naked lady, because we all know witches are naked and bloody.
Still wearing the glasses.
Everybody saw the Vivitch.
Yeah, still wearing the glasses though.
Well, yeah, you got to see.
Yeah.
You don't need clothes to see.
That's true.
But yeah, there's a lot of added stuff, but it doesn't really change the base of the film. It just adds a lot more to it. But the big change is the end.
Yeah, it's still a dance school full of witches.
Correct. Yes, I mean the like I said, all the elements are there. It's just they're remixed.
Yeah.
Tilda Swinton also played Mother Marcos as well.
That I didn't think I realized.
Yeah. So she plays the dance choreographer. She plays the old man. It's funny enough, like if you look at the credits, it's credited to like some random name.
Yeah.
But it's her in a suit, in an old man's suit. And then she's also the Mother Marco, because she's like just in a big, huge, like, I don't know, demon suit. I don't know. There's like baby hands hanging off of it and shit.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, she's just like a blood beast.
Yes.
But yeah, that's essentially the major changes. It's just elemental changes. It's just background stuff. Things are more or less happening the same. I mean, all the witches still talk at the same goofy table. It's a lot of the elements are the same.
Oh, I think the school's board was free in this one as opposed to costing money.
Well, it doesn't matter.
So, all right. So, do you think it's better than the original?
I don't know about that. It's doing a lot different things. I mean, I like it for different reasons. It's kind of like The Last House on the Left. I think they're almost equal to each other, but they're in vastly different directions. They're doing something different. I will say it's not quite up to the original, but it's almost there. I do like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a long movie. I'm still going to think the original is better, especially visually. And I think that's what this movie was missing, is that visual style of Argento.
I mean, of Argento, but I mean, it has a shit ton of visual style. I don't know what you were watching.
I'm talking about like the bright, bold colors.
Oh yeah, that was on purpose. They purposely used like German color at the time, and the only time they went full Argento was the very last scene. That's why they literally had the entire thing in red.
Right. But why don't we get into? You want to start with your highlights first?
Sure. I mean, I think Tilda Swinton did a fantastic job. I mean, obviously she's in just about every scene in the movie because she plays 3 roles. But did an outstanding job. I don't think Tilda Swinton gets the credit that she deserves, really. Like, everybody always talks about, who's the greatest actress of all time. It's always like Meryl Streep, who's great and all. But I mean, Tilda Swinton is like one of those kind of like changeling people you can pretty much put in any fucking role and she nails it.
She's the female Doug Jones of like character stuff. She gets lost. She gets lost in everything she does. You don't know it's her.
Right. But I mean, she does fucking comedy. She does fucking drama. She could do like horror. She could play a creepy person. She could play a goofy person. I mean, she could do like fucking anything and she nails it every time.
Yeah.
As I was saying, I think she should be up there when people say like greatest actresses ever, because she's, again, I can't think of a bad performance. I honestly don't think the only bad performances she's has been is it's just bad movies. I don't think she was done. She didn't do badly, just a bad movie.
Right.
Again, I think Dakota Johnson did great in this movie. This was like right after 50 Shades. So she was like desperately trying to get something to show her in a different light than 50 Shades was. And I think that's why she was like so into this character and like so into the dancing, because she did all the dancing and shit. She was just desperately trying to get out of that mold.
Yeah.
I feel bad for her because it's like her and Kristen Stewart, I feel so bad for, because they like it's the only thing that people know them for is these shitty fucking, YA romance bullshit. Well, I guess 50 Shades is not YA. It reads like YA. It's like reads like a child wrote it, but it's
that it does.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't even know what to describe. It's like middle-aged ladies that prefer YA writing with, quote unquote kinky stuff. If you don't know what kinky stuff is. It's essentially what it is. But anyway, that's what they're known for. And like, yeah, they made a lot of money off of that, but like, it kind of like ruined their careers at the same time, which is very sad. And like, they have to, like, everybody who does that has to like seek out these kind of crazy artistic, like very, very different roles to break out of that mold. Like Kristen Stewart, I think, is still trying to break out of that mold, even though she's had a lot of great movies and a lot of great performances. People still see her as fucking Twilight. But again, she also did like 8 of those movies. I mean, there's a lot of them. So whereas like the 50 Shades, I think there was only 3.
Yeah, thankfully.
So whatever. I think Dakota Johnson has mostly beat it at this point. But again, that's probably something that'll kind of screw her forever.
That's called Madam Web.
Yeah. Feel bad. She's probably like, oh, finally it's to be in a Marvel movie.
Nope.
Sorry, you're in the worst one. But I did like that they kept it in 1977. Right. And that was interesting. I mean, the whole split Berlin thing, they didn't really go into that into a whole lot of detail in the original. It was there, but it wasn't like discussed, and it was like heavily discussed in this one.
Oh, the wall was down at the end credits scene. So.
Right. I mean, just a very intense focus on art and dance in this one. The original one, like you said, they showed him practicing a couple times, and that was it. Like, it was just things happening at a dance school. It was not about dance, and this really put the focus more on dance, which I thought was pretty interesting. Yeah, the original Susie is in it as the wife of Tilda Swinton's old man. That didn't really exist. It was a figment of the imagination because they were trying to lure him to the dance studio. But that was the original Susie that played the wife. Whoever the suit maker was did a great job.
Yeah,
because like, if you didn't know that's Tilda Swinton, like, you probably would not guess that old man is Tilda Swinton.
Doesn't sound like her.
No,
doesn't look, because she has a unique look to her.
Right. And that's the interesting thing is like you can if you really think about it, the voice is a bit feminine, right? For the guy, but not
Mm.
noticeably like again, knowing it's Tilda Swinton, now then I can see, yeah, that's a little bit feminine of a voice. So the first time I saw this, I did not know that was Tilda Swinton, and I had no idea it was Tilda Swinton at the end of the film. No idea. I only learned it later. Mother Marcos is a lot easier to pull that off. She's in like this big giant suit and she talks like she's drowning. So it's that's easy to pull off. But yeah, I mean the suit was fantastic looking with the weird baby hands hanging off of her. It was weird. But yeah, whoever did that was great. The FX for the most part was great. There was a lot of CGI blood at the end, which was mostly done okay. There's some not great scenes, but mostly okay. I've seen much worse.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I like the finale, the kind of like intentionally holding back on color because they were trying not to be Argento by having those very bright colors and everything, and then at the very last scene, they literally just put a red filter over the camera so that everything is red. That was pretty interesting. It was kind of like a weird dance thing, but it was kind of like Argento and like Dolly kind of like had like a weird blood baby, and that's kind of what that dance scene was. It was very, very odd. And again, the ending twist that it's not just she just dies and because food for the mother. No, it's like she actually becomes the mother, which was again it if you've seen the original, it's just enough of a twist to like go, oh, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, it changed the ending of the movie completely.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Hands down agree, Tilda Swinton, phenomenal. She kills it and everything she's in, as you said. I feel like this movie is just as odd to going like you're sitting there going, what the fuck is happening? Like I don't understand what the fuck's happening.
Well, it was those originals like that too. You're
Yeah,
like, what the fuck is that?
right. And I think it holds that and it does it just as well. Like if you had told me Argento made this himself, I'd be like, I see it.
Right. Like I'm still confused in the original one. Like, what the fuck was with the werewolf that knocked out the stained glass window?
I don't know.
Right? like, what the hell is that? Like, it never came back. Like, what was that all about?
Yeah. I really enjoy the dance, like then body contortion scene combo. I think that's done really well. Obviously naked dance. Good morning kisses are always nice because everyone got a good morning kiss.
Hey, it's a dance studio, man. You got like they work their asses off, together all the time. They have to like force each other to like get along.
Yeah. It's more witchy. It's definitely more witchy. Like you're able to convey it better. I feel like it felt more like, yes, it was more dancing, but it was all just a ritual. It was the incantation. It was all part of the spell instead of just being there. So I did appreciate that more. I do like to call back to the Three Madres. It also gave me high hopes that this maybe would redo Tenebra, and then he just did the Third Mother like 12 years ago. So
yeah. But the funny thing is, this movie was originally supposed to be made as Suspiria Part 1. There was supposed to be a second film. That did not happen because that kind of relied on this one doing well, and this one did not do well. Box office wise, it was abysmal, and there's no way in hell they would ever get greenlit to make a sequel. But they left out the Part 1 because they're like, let's see if how this one does before we do that. And they left it off, and good thing they didn't because it would have been a Part 1 that never had a Part 2.
Yeah. But like I said, I do think they've been a good kicking point of the remake of the trilogy, or just use the one that came out 12 years ago or 6 years before this as the third part and just redone, Inferno, it's not,
If
bro.
they do redo Inferno, they got to have the hot dog man.
I mean, yes, they do.
Hot dog man was the best part.
And I psychic decapitation or nearly decapitation. I think they're showing more power in the witches in the end scene than they did in the original.
Well, that was the fake mother that was doing that. She is
Mhm.
supposed to be the most powerful of them.
And she nearly decapitated her,
Very nearly, yes.
but didn't. So that's what I got. I'll go into my low points. Yes, other than the last scene, it's not as colorful, so it didn't feel like an Argento movie in visual design. Let's see here. The crab walk dance, that was weird. That she did. Why she like
Which
just
one?
or like during the contortion scene, like, or sorry, no, her musicless dance that she did, which I didn't like either. Her introduction to her, and she like jumps
Okay, you
around.
can just say you don't like dance. That's okay.
I don't like dance.
Okay, there you go. That sums it all up.
I feel like it didn't need to be as long. We could probably cut some of it out, quite honestly. Maybe 30 minutes worth. I think it still had just as much of an impact. And you talk about the CGI blood. It is, when it's bad, it is bad in this movie. Like, you have stuff that's not CGI blood, and then you have stuff that's clearly is CGI blood, like, next to each other. And I don't know if maybe at that point in time, because they were all just bloody messes, they just did it in post, and like some squib didn't go off right. But I think it's very noticeable, especially in that scene.
Well, I think what happened is at the end of it, they were like, "This is not bloody enough. We
Right.
need more," so they just added more.
Yeah. And I feel like Dakota Johnson's line delivery was abysmal as the rest of her movies I've ever seen her do, unfortunately.
Oh, don't be a Dakota Johnson hater. Don't fall into that trap. She's great.
I like the weirdest line to me was after she was being told to jump like 50 times in a row. It's like, sometimes I have to be told more than twice. It just felt odd and out of place. That particular line.
It was a joke, buddy.
It was not good.
You didn't get the joke.
I guess I didn't really need to see the naked old witch with her like deflated balloon boobs.
Hey man, you get naked witches, you're getting all kinds of naked witches.
I only want good naked witches, all right?
That's not how witches work. Everybody's naked. It don't matter who you are.
Not everybody was naked, so.
That's correct. Dakota Johnson was just almost naked.
Almost naked, but she wasn't.
Right.
So that's what I got. What about you?
Okay, there was one too many piss close-ups in this film. I was like, what the piss, man? Stop it. Like, the lady was getting all contorted around and she's like literally like pissing. They like show a close-up of showing her pissing, then they show all the piss on the floor, then they show her like walking through the piss. I'm like, stop with the piss. Let's move on from the piss, please.
We
And
got
then,
a piss guy.
Yeah, a couple scenes later, it's like everybody's pissing in a cup, and we got fucking close-ups of piss in a cup.
Mhm.
I don't need stop with the piss in the cup. So I don't know if like whoever made this had like a piss fetish or something. I just felt there was too many piss close-ups for sure. I think an hour longer is a little excessive.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some trimming you could have done in there. I don't think necessarily the dancing needed to go. I like the dancing, but you could have made some trimming in there. Like a whole extra hour, I feel is unnecessary. Penis shaming. Nobody should be penis shamed.
With meat hooks.
Yeah. the poor cop, like, and the cackling witches.
Oh yeah, I meant more
shaming
the
his small penis.
Cackling meat hooks, penis shaming. Yeah,
yeah. It was terrifying. There's a lot of German in this movie. Like, I mean, yes, I get it. We're in Berlin. I understand people spoke German there. I get it, but like, it's an American movie. You can just speak English. It's okay. This, you do what most movies do is they show them speaking the other language, and then at some point it just switches over to English, and you just understand that yes, they're still speaking German, but they're speaking English for clarity.
I thought
Yeah.
the first time I saw it, I thought they were going to do that when she's sitting down at the table and like the newspaper cuts across and then she's speaking English. Like, okay, they did that. No.
Right, because that's what most movies do nowadays. They show them speaking the language they're supposed to be speaking in, and then they cut into English. Like they're not actually speaking English; it's just for us to understand as the film, you know. But no, yeah, there's a lot of German. Probably half the movie was German.
Yes.
And yeah, like I think the politics, I enjoy the politics, but like I think they felt out of place in this. Like there's no point to them. Like the only kind of point they had was that the initial girl that disappears, Patricia, right? Like she supposedly had sympathetic ties to these, you know, terrorist people that were blowing up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only tie, and she's gone as a character like before the opening fucking credits.
Yes.
Like we don't need the whole Bader Meinhof story during the fucking movie. Like nobody cares. It doesn't affect any character in any way. It's just so bizarre how they did all that. Maybe they were just trying to show the time frame, you know, where they're at and stuff, and just kind of solidify that.
But how's someone gonna smell a bomb?
I guess maybe it smells like fireworks. You know, they get that sulfur smell in here. So yeah, I feel like that could have been cut for sure. Like you have a whole extra hour in there. Like we don't need the fucking Cold War politics. Like that. This movie is not about Cold War politics. It's about witches.
Correct.
It's about witches and dancing. Like we don't need fucking Cold War politics. It just feels out of place. But yeah, and then the whole Bader Meinhof like complex is funny because this is the actual story that the Bader Meinhof syndrome is based on. Do you know the Bader Meinhof?
I don't think so.
It was. I think it came up in the 90s. It's basically, you know the concept. The concept is like when you hear something, and then all of a sudden you hear it from like a bunch of different places. Like you hear this like a word for the first time, and then all of a sudden you read that word, you hear that word, you see it on TV, and you're like, "What the fuck? I just heard this word last week, and now it's everywhere." That feeling is the Bader Meinhof syndrome.
So kind of like when you know someone that gets in your car, also you see that car everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it's the same thing as where like you're completely unaware of a thing, you learn about that thing, and then all of a sudden that thing is everywhere.
Yeah.
That's they call it Bader Meinhof syndrome, and it's because they based it off of like the person who had first felt that like heard this story and had never heard the story before, and then after they heard the story, now they're hearing it out. Same, it's the same thing. It's just the name. If you're familiar with that name, that's probably what it is. Not from the actual story of Bader Meinhof. It's a syndrome that came up in the 90s because it was a big thing in the 90s.
Gotcha.
But that's all I got.
All right. So we both gave Suspiria the original 8.5. And so I personally like the original better. This isn't a bad movie. It's definitely not as bad as everyone made it out to be. It's kind of going to be under those like, okay, yeah, it's been 6 years at this point in time, but you know, what's going to be like in 10 more years? Will people like rediscover it? I think so. I think it'll be one of those underrated gems that people will enjoy. But I will go down to 7 for this. 7 disturbing nudes out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's weird that this movie was not like out there.
Yeah,
like I really didn't hear about it. The only reason I really heard about it was because it's like an Amazon movie. And you know, like you turn on, you know, I have a Fire TV, right? You turn it on, and like back then it would like show up, like the first thing that would show up, like whenever they have a movie that comes out, right? And like they fucking shove it up your ass. It's the first thing that you see every time you turn it on. It was what it was. It was like Suspiria. I was like, oh, a new one? Like I didn't even know what it was. Like I had no fucking clue. And by that time it made it to Fire TV, it had already been out for a while. I didn't even fucking heard of it. And it should have been something I heard of. I just think it was. I don't know if it was poorly marketed or what the fuck. But yeah, it's one of those things that nobody has really heard of, and again, it's very polarizing. People either loved it or they fucking hated it. But I thought it was great. So I don't think it's quite lives up to the original, but I think it's very good on its own. So I'll give it 8.25.
All right.
Anything else you want to add?
I did notice that Last House on the Left came out 27 years after the original, and the next year was when The Crazies came out, and the remake came out 27 years later as well. 30, yeah. 37. And I think that's just funny because I was looking at that, I'm like, oh, Crazies was 1973, Last House was 1972, and we got them 1 year after each other as well. So maybe people are going, all right, let's just start going through the 70s movies.
They probably were, and then they probably remade one that really sucked, and then they stopped. That's how these remakes have been going. They make them, and they're like, people are like, oh, okay, that's all right. Oh, okay, that's all right. But those make money, and that's fine. But as soon as it hits one where they're like, oh, that sucked, nobody wants to watch any remakes after that for a while. So they have to like stop the train and then wait a decade and then start it up again.
So we'll have to look at what came out in 1974 and what the remake was.
Right. Okay. So next week, we journey into the bowels of World War II. Yes, that World War II. We visit some super soldier experiments gone wrong with Overlord. Watch some classic Nazi magic in The Keep. I've never seen The Keep. It's been on my list for a while.
It's been on my list for a while too.
I think I made this to put The Keep on the list because I wanted to watch it. Overlord I've seen. Overlord is good. And see if we can keep our sanity in The Bunker. I haven't seen The Bunker either. We'll find out. But these films all take place during World War II. But again, don't count on historical accuracy here because I've seen Overlord, and I know that's not historically accurate. But
there were no zombies in World War II.
They were super soldiers, not zombies.
Well, Call of Duty would make me believe otherwise, that there's zombies and everything.
We don't talk about Call of Duty. Remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to.
And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.
Good night.